It's good.
Hello and welcome to another edition video EntheoRadio, where we have Kenneth Ray Stubbs of SexualShaman.com and myself, Captain Hugh T. Alchemy of EntheoRadio.com. We're doing a very special interview today where we'll talk about shamanism, psychedelics, and sexuality. So, to start off the topic, talk a little bit about, here's Ray. I'm going to call him Ray. I know everyone knows him as Kenneth Ray Stubbs, but I know him as Ray. Could we talk a little bit about your experience with shamanism as a sun dancer and your experience as a sexological bodyworker? Is that how you define it?
The sexological bodywork is a specific system which I've never been trained in, although I'm familiar with Joseph Kramer, who started that system. He and I were good buddies. He and I were some of the first people to teach erotic massage in the early 1970s in San Francisco. So
let's talk about your experience as a shaman and your sexual. How do we define your sexual facilitator, sexual teacher? I don't know how to give that a title. You have a title for me.
Yes. I do not call myself a shaman. I use the concept of sexual shaman to convey certain ideas. I think I have some shamanic abilities, and I've been on a shamanic path. I don't use the word shaman, partly because I don't want to be confused with traditional people in indigenous cultures within a certain cultural context who have been considered shamans. Now, with that said, I sort of stepped into this whole thing around shamanism. I stepped into it because I was just drawn to it for many, many different reasons. At some point I started to develop some abilities to read energies. And I was working on a project that I now call the Shaman cards. And I thought, well, what are these cards for? And what I was coming to understand was they're about helping to develop certain energetic abilities and energetic structures. And so I started to, quote, read the energies of a lot of friends, people I know, shamans, colleagues, just all sorts of people. And I was very surprised to start to find that there was a pattern of a lot of the people that I knew as traditional shamans. I mean, I'm talking about who lived on the res, who were considered ceremonial leaders or shaman or medicine people within their culture. Those were the people who developed these structures and abilities that this deck of cards were designed to facilitate. So I had no idea it was about shamanism at the time. Because at that point I've written only about sexuality, so I assumed that this must be some sort of project about sexuality too, because it sort of bubbled up within me. And then I had realized, no, well, it is about sexuality in one sense. It's really about developing, like I said before, certain abilities and structures that traditional shamans have developed. So I now define shaman from a point of view of what structures and abilities a person has, regardless of the external behavior, or the way I sum it up, putting a feather in your hair and beating on a drum does not a shaman make.
Okay.
Right. Now, doing those types of ceremonies may be very, very valuable. So I'm not putting down doing the ceremonies. I'm not putting down going to other cultures to learn those ceremonies. I'm simply saying doing the ceremonies, the external form is not really the power or the effect of what a traditional shaman is. So I sort of started calling it the shaman cards because the way I stepped in from the backside. Now, but your question is a huge question. How do I step into all of this? Many years ago, I started to teach. I went to massage school. I felt that the massage profession was really negative and in denial around sexuality and the genitals. And yet if you do massage professionally, and probably if you never have any sexual feelings, you are not getting into the massage as a practitioner. That is not to say you should do anything about it in a massage context. In terms of touching genitals or doing sex, I'm not suggesting that at all. But the point is if you're doing effective massage, people will be going into different feeling emotional spaces.
Absolutely.
And if you're tuning into it, you say, oh, wow, where's this coming from? It's information.
Yeah.
But it's not permission to go do something necessarily.
Absolutely.
It might be. Now, that's assuming from the professional massage point of view, where sexuality was not considered an appropriate activity. Anyway, I really felt that the massage profession was in denial, and so I started to teach a class in what I call erotic massage for people of all sexual orientations, but for couples, twosomes. This was in San Francisco in 1975.
All right.
So we were in the heyday of the sexual revolution.
Yes.
It was a very, very awesome time, an opportunity. Where no one could tell me I couldn't do this. And someone could tell me I couldn't do it, but they couldn't stop me, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, as I started to teach that, I realized I had to deal with energy. Because you start touching genitals and teaching genital massage as a part of an overall massage process.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to start generating energy. It's going to be building up. And so I learned if I want to help people to ease past this buildup of energy, I had to figure out ways to relate energetically through touch or breath or whatever. So I discovered some ways, but the point is that it forced me into really being aware of energy. And at the same time, I started to study Tibetan Buddhism, because I thought they were perhaps closer to the energy ideas that I wanted to explore. But eventually I moved more into a shamanic path, because I think that traditional shamans, for them to be what they are, they have to develop abilities to relate to energy. Yeah. And so, this is getting real theoretical here, but I think there are two main criteria to look at regarding is a person a shaman or not. For me, a shaman is someone who is functioning in more than one dimension.
The walking between the worlds.
No, I wouldn't even say that, because now because there, in my perspective, there are 20 dimensions.
Okay, all right.
And to use the different worlds and to say the spirit world is way too limiting of a concept from my point of view. Way too limiting.
Okay.
And there are, well, let me talk about the dimensions. I would say 98% of the people on the planet, if not 99% of the people on the planet, are functioning in only one dimension. And a dimension is a range of frequencies from lower to higher. That's how I define the word dimension, which is not the way a lot of people define the word dimension. Or if they define it like that, they're talking about we're in the third dimension, trying to get into the fifth dimension. Well, that's not how I understand it. Most people on this planet are only in the first dimension.
It's kind of like a spectrum.
It's a spectrum, yes. And each additional dimension is intrinsic to this dimension and of a higher range of frequencies. So shamans minimally have to be functioning in the first 4 dimensions.
Interesting.
For me to consider them a shaman, we step into a shamanic path when we start to be able to function in the second or third dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a number of people out there in the shamanic world, contemporary people, who have done that. But I find very, very few people who consider themselves shamans or on a shamanic path functioning in the first 4 dimensions when I read their energies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so what we want to do is to develop certain energetic structures and abilities that enable us to function in these higher ranges of frequencies. So number of ranges of frequencies that a person is functioning in is one of my criteria. And it actually be first 4. Another useful, though not main criteria, but is a very good indicator, is the level of intensity one is functioning in. Mm-hmm. This is going to tie into all the other things we're going to be talking about today. The level of intensity when we talk about sex magic, when we talk about entheogens, we're starting to talk about other levels of intensity.
Okay.
And these levels of intensity, you could call them energy, but energy starts to be a word too limited for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a more encompassing term that I call intensity. And most people are functioning only in the first level of intensity most of the time. And I call that incarnated energy, or...
is that like spiritual fire? When you say intensity?
No, it's just energy to function with. I call it physical, mental, emotional, spiritual energy. You could say it's another way of saying incarnated energy.
Okay. Is it anywhere in the range of brightness of aura?
The greater the higher the level, or the higher the level of intensity, which is also the more intrinsic level. Higher intensity means more intrinsic. The more you're able to function at a lower or intrinsic level, you're going to be brighter.
Okay.
And to compress this down into 20 minutes or half an hour, an hour, it's starting to be a challenge already. So you have to explain these concepts to see how I understand sex magic and entheogen, entheogen plants.
Entheogenic, yeah.
Entheogenic, yes, thank you. Let's see. So, a shaman to me is functioning, for me to consider a person a shaman, pretty much they have to be functioning in the third level of intensity. Mm. Most people function only in the first. We go into ceremony, and we can somehow start to function at the second level to some extent of intensity.
Is that similar to when peyote way teachers or ayahuasqueros in ceremony say, the medicine demands the respect that you sit up, and your back might be on fire because you've been sitting for so long, sitting upright, and you can go through that experience? Or is that a different thing than intensity?
It's probably related, I'm guessing, in that I think that what happens with the entheogenic plants is that we temporarily access what I call the fourth dimension and the third level of intensity. And that comes into us in a functional way. It's like the second level of intensity, which I call elemental energy, earth, wind, water, fire.
Okay.
And that, having that energy, let me go into sexuality. When you have an orgasm, the same thing happens.
Yes.
The thing about orgasm in particular in entheogen plants is that we have a tendency to access the fourth dimension, not function in it. Shamans function there 24/7.
Okay.
But the average person accesses it, and in a sense manifests or brings in levels of intensity of energy. And they then, it accumulates it. And the reason the second level of intensity intrinsic to the first level, which I call incarnated energy, the reason the second level is important is because it is the type of energy that certain energetic structures function in. And if you don't have enough of it, they can't function. And these are the energetic structures that enable us to function in the higher and higher frequencies of other dimensions.
Okay.
Need more intensity to function, or higher intensity or more intrinsic intensity, to function in higher levels of frequency or more intrinsic levels of frequency.
So that level of functioning would have something of maybe like a side effect of a miracle occurs, right? At that level of functioning?
No, it's standard operational procedure. You have an orgasm, you're going to be bringing in more energy.
Okay, so the body relaxes, the health energy goes up in some way.
Okay, I don't think so much of health as functional energy.
Okay.
Because, see, I'm no longer talking about this organism.
Mm-hmm.
It's relevant. I'm talking about the other energetic structures that if you want to be a traditional shaman or like the Dalai Lama, you have to develop so you can function the way they function. It's by bringing in more energy, more intensity of energy. And this is available to us over time. Boy, I'm trying to say so much in a short amount of time here.
It's all right. Take your time. Isolate.
The point is that there, as I kept reflecting on this, given your questions earlier, a couple weeks ago, I started to see more and more of a parallel between orgasm of any kind, energetic or ejaculatory, male or female body, mashes and jobs and orgasm. Any of those orgasms become energetic or physiological, whatever. You are bringing in energy, intensity, more intensity of a certain kind. The kind of energy that enables you to develop certain energetic structures so you can eventually function at higher and higher dimensions, which enables you then to just bring in energy without being in what we think of as orgasm. The Dalai Lama can be celibate because the way he functions energetically, he's bringing in energy all the time.
Okay.
You don't have to be celibate. The point is that imposed celibacy for people who are not really developed can really fuck up people. But once you develop like some of these higher lamas, you can have orgasm or not have orgasm, but you're still bringing in lots of energy. 24/7, it's just the way you function.
So life becomes the orgasm.
Yes.
Excellent.
It's lit process of living. And
living, yes.
So I'm going to stray here from some of your original questions.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
So why don't you give me some more questions just so I can maybe hone this in more specific.
I'd like to hone in a little bit for those who haven't heard the experience and the transition you made from your sexual bodywork training and massage training into the language of shamanism and how that became a language for sexuality.
Before my neck injury, I've written 2 books on techniques for lovers to share with each other, massage and bathing and beating like that. And I thought I'd like to do a book on sexual positions. I think sexual positions are the least important aspect of lovemaking for most of the people most of the time. But people are fascinated in looking at illustrations and photographs. I mean, fascinated. A whole room is not uptight about sex. You bring in a book about sexual positions 30 years ago now, things are so different now. We have the internet and just a lot of things that are sort of boring as hell on the internet. But being in a book 30, 40 years ago, and people went, yeah. You know? And so I said, okay, I'll write a book about sexual positions, even though I don't think they're that important. But I was going to write it my way. And I had been studying kinesiology, muscle testing. Do you know what that is, muscle testing?
Yes, like that.
Yeah, like that. And I had a very eclectic teacher, and he did a lot of things other than just look at which supplements and foods to eat.
Okay.
For energy of the land.
What was his name? Do you mind?
Yeah. Oh, come on.
I read a book on
his sister.
Hawkins.
No, not him at
all. He did a lot of testing on stuff.
Yeah, he did. I believe he did. But sorry, his system is called Health Kinesiology, and I'm seeing his face. And I just got an email from him a couple of days ago, and I have gone blank on his name, which I will probably remember midway in this process.
It's okay.
Anyway, I don't use his system anymore, but the point is he's very eclectic. And so I thought, well, what answers do I get using muscle testing? Now, after my neck injury, I could no longer do self-muscle testing. I shifted to pendulum dowsing, which is the same type of phenomenon.
Sure, so you're shaking.
Yeah, pendulum. And so anyway, I said, I'm going to do a book on sexual positions. Why don't I just practice this new skill I've been developing with muscle testing, self-muscle testing, to see what concepts, what to put in the book.
Which positions?
Well, what to put in the book.
All right.
The book, when I finished it, was called Sacred Orgasms.
Huh.
It was no longer about sexual positions. Other than, if you look at the Tibetan Buddhist Yab-yum, where you see this male and female and legs are crossed around each other's back or buttocks, and they're in physical intercourse. Mm-hmm. But the Tibetan Buddhists are not teaching, some of these celibate Gelugpa Tibetan Buddhists are not teaching how to do sex in their courses. That I know of, these are not the ones I attended. But they still use this image of the Yab-yum couple. So that what it was, in a sense, the merging of two different energies as depicted by male and female bodies. And the main thing that I've learned to teach in my path to the sexual shaman training is energetic merging. Not physical merging, although you can definitely do that in intercourse, but learning to merge energetically with another person. And here again, this is where shamanism and sexuality overlap. When you have an orgasm, you naturally merge with another person. By merge, I mean you're vibrating at your own energetic patterns, and temporarily in orgasm, you add on the other person's energetic patterns.
Okay.
That's different than an empath who takes on another person's patterns. Now, this is add-on in addition. You don't stop your own, become the other person. You become the other person energetically at the same time during the moment of orgasm. That happens naturally. You don't have to do any sort of meditation. It's my observation. You just have a good old time, and you shoot your rocks off, and either male or female, and you've merged. You've also brought in more energy. I call manifesting more elemental energy, second type of energy.
All right.
And so what shamans do, by my observation, someone fits my definition of shaman, not any practitioner. And by the way, I will say, people who use energy to harm, limit other people are not shamans by my definition.
Sorcerers?
I don't know what to call them, but they're not shamans.
Okay.
The way that I use the term. Because if you start to try to take energy from someone else or interfere with someone else's energy, you lose your own abilities. On the long term, you can end up... sexual vampires, they exist a lot. Because they literally extract the intensity of energy. You have an orgasm, oh goody, the best energy of all. You suck it right in.
Sure.
And that happens. And some people who call themselves shamans are just sucking people's energies, regardless of whether they're doing sex or not. I'm not even talking about sex right now.
Right.
The same type of phenomenon, extracting the intensity of energy from another person. The person who does that, number one, can't function interdimensionally. They function only in the first dimension. They get their mojo by taking other people's energies, but you got to keep feeding that energy. You got to feed the energy.
Okay.
It's a whole other side point. But the point is, when you merge, you do not take the other person's energy. You do not start being the other person to replace your own self. You go into a pattern where you are your own energetic patterns, and you add on temporarily the other person's energetic patterns. I call that merging. That happens naturally in orgasm.
Is this protected or unprotected sex? Does it matter?
It doesn't make a bit of difference.
Okay.
I mean, you can do it at a distance. You can have a close-up intercourse or sex play of any kind. But when you have the orgasm, certain things happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is with a shaman, he or she has developed energetic structures and abilities to enable this person, the shaman, to merge with another person. Because if you want, let's say the main objective of a shaman is to transform.
Shapeshift?
No.
Transform.
Transform. It may be shape-shifting, but that's a whole other discussion what shape-shifting is.
Sure.
Some people use the word healing. I use the word transformation.
All right.
Transformation, for me, I define as a change in the underlying frequency or intensities of an energetic pattern. underlying frequencies or intensities. And that's not just an emotional change, but rather is literally, see, we're made up of frequencies and intensities, if you can think of it that way. We're made up of frequencies and intensities. And if we're doing something that facilitates the increasing of the intensity and or the frequency, we have transformed it. When the process of transformation, to be able to do it, one, you have to perceive the other person's patterns. Two, you have to go into vibrating at the same patterns.
Yes.
And from there, then the transformation can take place. It's not imposing on another person. It is being with the other person.
So let me confirm this. I heard you say that healing and transformation are the same thing.
Healing, slight variation.
Okay.
But yes, healing is a subset of transformation. Healing implies starting at a dysfunctional, negative, disease place.
Mm-hmm.
You can start at a very good place.
Okay, so if you start at a good place, it might be more of transforming.
Either one is transformation.
Okay, either. So if you as an individual, as a shaman, are starting at that place of being in a good way, energetically, I don't know if you called it intensity or what you called it, but then you merge with your energy with someone who's in need of healing and maybe not be in a good place, and instead of just empathing or taking on their energy, you're adding your energy on top of, or their energy on top of yours.
Or adding on the patterns. I wonder if it's on top of, but in addition to.
Okay, in addition to. Their energy, because of the merger, will then go through a transformation.
Here is a distinction that's very, very important, which I don't think many people understand. The shaman does not transform, we'll say, the client. We'll call it a client for right now.
Okay.
Rather, the shaman who is developed, usually probably more in certain ways, than the client, merges with the client. The client now has, therefore the client is merged with the shaman. I don't want to use the word patient, so I'm using the word client. It's a mutual merging. It may be initiated because the shaman has developed abilities that the other person doesn't have or doesn't have yet. And when you merge, if you and I merge, then whatever energetic abilities I have, or whatever your energetic abilities you have, come into a common bag, so to speak. Whatever intensities of energy I have, whatever intensity of energy you have, come into a commonality. And whatever knowingness, the knowledge database of what to do, how to do, I have, and you have, come together. All three of these become in this new synthesis of a system available to both people. I have a hammer, before we begin, I have a hammer, you have a saw. We come together, I now have a hammer and a saw, you now have a hammer and a saw. Okay. You have abilities that I have, plus your own abilities. I have abilities that I have, plus your abilities, in terms of being able to function with. So that literally, what really, really, really is happening is that the person is transforming themselves.
I see.
Because temporarily, they have a whole new system. And it's not their everyday mind, it's their being, which is a more inclusive aspect, is much wiser than their everyday mind. It is, oh yeah, I've been needing this hammer now. Just what I needed. I want to build this house, and I'll be damned if I can nail nails with this saw.
Right.
Not easily. It takes all day. So it's like, healer, heal thyself.
Yes.
As a shaman, the idea is that you develop your abilities to function in other dimensions. You develop your energetic muscles, so to speak. You develop your intensities of energy. You develop your knowingness of what to do. And you bring this to another person. And the other person temporarily has this available to them. And the more developed you are, the more the other person has available to them. But you have to merge to make that synthesis of a combined, so to speak, abilities, intensities, and knowledge become one.
So this practice, is it cultivated in some way by individuals or both parties? A certain practice that they do, like a meditation, or is it just that it happens as an event in the timeline, and then after that event happens, there's the merger based around memory, based around the fact that it happened in the timeline?
No, it happens whenever they're merged.
Okay.
And the receiver does not have to have any preparation.
And this doesn't necessarily, we were talking about orgasm before, it doesn't mean that orgasm has to occur
Absolutely.
on either one of the parties,
Yeah.
because we're bypassing that by going through a process of being in high spirits. I don't know the word that you used, but like
One of the things
resonance.
one of the things that happens in orgasm is you merge with another person.
Mm-hmm.
You develop. One of the things that happens is in orgasm you merge with another person. People who are shamans, by my definition, have developed certain structures and abilities that enable them to do merging with another person in a non-orgasmic context.
Yes.
But your being, you've had orgasm, so your being knows how to merge.
Yes. Most people.
I would, and not, you're in your everyday mind, you may not know how to, but it happens naturally. That's what I'm trying to say, and that's why sexuality. Anybody's on a shamanic path that totally negates sexuality is really limiting themselves. And I'm not advocating having sex with patients, clients, receivers. You can. That could be a methodology. But I'm not advocating that, and it's not usually even necessary because you can do it energetically, and with a lot much easier.
So, one of the cake-taking questions is, how does this relate to sex magic? What is sex magic for people that are hearing this term for the first time? And does the application of sex magic further the healing process or this transformative process that's going on?
I suspect basically not. Here's what I think happens. And I think I could say sex magic could be also be called orgasmic manifestation.
All right, fair enough.
I like that term better than sex magic because I don't know what the hell does magic mean. It means many different things. And the way I understand, if people who are into the law of attraction, you have an idea, a thought. Mm-hmm. In this case, representing what you think you want.
Desire, yeah.
Now, that thought is just a thought. It's an idea. It's a vibratory pattern, a frequency pattern. But if you want to, let's think of law of attraction or sex magic. It's like you got a billboard in the night.
Yes.
But unless you shine some light on it, no one's ever going to know it's there. You don't get to convey into the world or to the ethos or wherever it is. You don't convey your desire, your intent. So most people who are doing the law of attraction basically is you have a thought of what you want, and then you think it and you bring good feelings to it. Mm-hmm. I feel happy, or you think good things, feel love, think positive thoughts. So you get an emotional. Now, emotions are that first level intensity, what I call live or incarnated energy.
Yes.
If you want to get to the next most intrinsic level, which is higher level intensity, you bring in the orgasm. Because when you have an orgasm, you're bringing in, manifesting, bringing in more of the elemental energy, which is intrinsic to it. So you have brighter lights now. And so you have the orgasm, and you sort of in a sense, you invest, you throw out with your intent the energy of that orgasm into that frequency pattern. So now you have greater intensity with that frequency pattern. So it lights up the billboard brighter.
Yes.
Now, the problem with that There's nothing wrong with doing this. The limitation of this, if you want to develop yourself to the point of what I'm talking about being a shaman, functioning in the first 4 dimensions and functioning in the first 3 levels of intensity, you have to develop certain energetic structures and abilities that enable you to now do it simply with your intent, to function in these higher levels. So you're vibrating at these higher frequencies 24/7.
So it's kind of like a crutch.
No, it's like you are throwing away your energy. If you're doing what I think of as what some people use to call sex magic, in which you bring the energy of the orgasm and sort of inject it into your thought. So as one DVD I saw, I say I dedicate this orgasm to world peace.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. Fine to do that. I don't see it being a problem. Other than you've just thrown away that energy. It gets lost after a while and it's dissipating. You are putting into a pattern, you light up those lights out there, rather than accumulating it within you, which enables you to develop these other energetic structures.
Okay, so it's a recirculation that must occur.
No, I think what happens is it's gone. You've wasted it. I mean, you've invested it in an idea that is important. It may help bring in something in your life. As you say, oh, I want a new car. Take the ideas from The Secret. I want a hot babe, a Maserati, red Maserati. God, you got to go red one. And a big house on the beach.
Sure.
I mean, if you use The Secret as your criterion of the law of attraction here, well, the point is that an orgasm, you're going to bring brighter light to that than feeling good about your intent. A picture of your house that you want to have. So now you have an orgasm there.
So I see the applications for this, and I'm in question because I'm a personal researcher. I do my own personal reporting and research, and then I develop these things into applications for my own life. And I encourage all of our viewers and listeners to do that because it's the best, most experiential path. And you learn the most, I believe. The best teacher is life. But why is it out there now on the internet, quite publicly, how to do this form of sex magic that you just described, where it's you take some intention and you put this thought-based thing into your orgasm.
Okay.
Why is it there?
Well, because it might help attract. I'm saying it has a more intensity energy that you're putting into your thought than if you're just feeling good about it, feeling positive. Every day feeling good will light the lights a little bit, but going brighter lights, be able to function in that, or have that other level of energy, or more intrinsic level of energy. But what I'm arguing here is, if you, in effect, once it's put into that thought, you don't, as far as I know, it's hang around for a while, but then it's just gone. You do not get a chance to accumulate it, so to speak.
It works, but it becomes like a vampiric thing.
Well, no, it's not a vampiric. No.
It's not sustainable?
It doesn't, yes, it gets used up.
Right.
So to speak.
Okay.
If, on the other hand, I think this is how it works. If you keep that intensity of energy, and you get more and more developed, so you're now able to function in the first 4 dimensions and function at third level of intensity, then you have an intent of something you want. It does not dissipate the energy. Rather, it accumulates to it over time and makes it brighter and brighter and brighter without you losing it. This is my current analysis. So that short-term gain versus long-term gain. You might be able to focus right now, but if you keep that energy, still do your other way of feeling good about your intent or your desire, doing it that way. But when you have the orgasm, because it's a certain type of energy which is one of the main ways you get this energy is with orgasm. Until you develop yourself enough that you're able to intend and you manifest it, you bring it in a whole different way than what we think of as orgasm. And so it's not bad to do sex magic, the way I describe sex magic. It's just that I think that there can be a more fruitful way and more powerful way eventually to quote people to attract things.
Excellent.
This is a conceptualization.
There's a lot of this information sort of circling in the circles of places online lately, both associated with semi-secret societies, Masonic orders that practice sex magic at some of the higher levels, like the Ordo Templi Orientis and the Golden Dawn, the ceremonial magical versions of the Masonic Lodge. I don't know, because I wasn't a Scottish Rite Mason, if they do that in there. But there's a lot of information now on the internet circulating saying that these organizations are using sex magic at a certain level, which it would make sense why it's peculiar to people and it's being investigated, because A, it works, like you've explained, but it doesn't work long term and it must be repeated, and so everything that must be repeated is no longer a secret, because it's shared with so many people over so much time. So it seems like it's coming out of the woodwork now.
I don't know, but first of all, the moment we're talking about secret societies, I had red flags pop up all over the place, because we're talking about control. Information is information. When you're with the highly developed people, you merge with them. There are no fucking secrets. That doesn't mean that you get to know what's in their mind, but you know how they function. If you're thinking in terms of spiritual development now, spiritual energetic development, it's like the Dalai Lama cannot not transmit.
Right. My teacher always used to say, she went to see the Dalai Lama, and she's like, I don't know if I believe in enlightenment, but when you see the Dalai Lama, there's an energy in the room. Yeah,
because he is so developed with these functioning all 20 dimensions, functioning in the first 4 levels of intensity by my perspective, has a lot of other development when I read his energy. And I look at the Crowley.
Yeah, that's a
hot
name.
He's a fucking energy sucker.
Right. He seemed to know something that he didn't really pass on or share, and allowed a lot of people to
I don't know, it's just like
practice incomplete systems.
I don't know, they're not, but energy suckers suck people from energy. They're functioning in the first or second intensity level. They're functioning in the first dimension only. Only the first 2 chakras are open. And I find their information bullshit and useless.
Interesting.
Bullshit and useless. I mean, I can't tell you. And if someone, you have to pass all these tests before they can convey the secret to you, you're being fucked over. I have no sympathy for this bullshit about secret societies. And if it's so fucking powerful, I don't think it's that powerful. I really don't. Compared to when you get with these high-level shamans and these high-level Tibetan lamas and Tibetan yogis, that's a whole other ball game. And it's this mediocre, bullshit, superficial stuff that I hear from The Secret, and a lot of The Secret, that documentary called The Secret. And I was so, I could not stand that documentary. But I read it, I watched it because it was so popular at the time. It took me about 10 different sittings to be able to get through that thing. And I just said, this is a piece of shit, this is a piece of shit. And so I thought, I better go back and watch this very analytically and try to see, why am I saying this? So I came back several years later, and I read the energy of every one of the presenters.
All right, fair enough.
And I listened to their ideas. Now, when I separated the messenger from the message, I thought, or some of the message, I just separated. I thought, that's an interesting idea. I think I'll play with that. But I was so repulsed by the superficiality of the presenters.
A salesman.
Yeah. Everyone except for 2 of the people I read the energies were energy suckers. Every one of them.
How about Esther Hicks? What do you think of her?
I'm not familiar enough to comment on that.
Okay.
I've seen a few of her videos. She's a psychic.
Well, she wasn't in all versions of The Secret. She was in one, and then she got edited out in the later one.
Okay, maybe I saw the later one because whomever I was viewing, the Beckwith in Los Angeles and some physicists were the only 2 people that I could get their energy in. All of them are functioning only in 1 dimension. There's no 4-dimension people there. There were no 20-dimension people there. At least from my reading, which may be wrong or inaccurate. And everyone else was energy suckers. And I couldn't stand the superficiality of it all. But the idea is not a bad idea.
No, the concept seemed very well spoken, but the speakers seemed very well rehearsed.
Oh yeah, they're smooth operators. I have found very few motivational speakers who are not energy suckers.
Well, that's why, and I don't know if our listeners know this, but like people who use neuro-linguistic programming techniques like Tony Robbins, they're on their 2nd or 3rd wife. In many cases, I mean, they're putting out DVDs saying this is how to have your perfect relationship, and then their 3rd relationship down the road, they put it out at the beginning, and then they had 2 relationships, dumped 2 people, and joined a 3rd. So this is a good point in our dialogue to discuss whether you believe it is truly spiritual and tantric and shamanistic to be in open relationships, which may be defined more polyamorously, as a lot of our mutual friends define them, or singular relationships as defined more monogamously, as some anthropologists define them.
I would say whatever scratches your itch. What works for you? And but what is important is that one does not impose that on another person.
Yes.
That's critical. And what may work at one point in time may not work at another point in time. I think if we look at I think it's inherent in our nature to have multiple partners and to be solo. I mean, to be a single partner. For me, it's been mainly to be a monk. I love living alone. And I've been very sexual in my life and fallen in love a number of times. Falling in love is great. But also I wanted to live alone. So whatever you want to do or don't do, if you can get someone else to be in agreement with that and you're happy with that, go for it. So, I mean, whatever works. And it's not easy. Relationships are not easy. And I will say, if one person grows, I've looked at couples. For them, if one person starts to grow, develop these other energetic structures, and the other person doesn't, that relationship's not going to last. You just, a person working through all 20 dimensions, functioning all 20 dimensions, is just not going to have happiness with a person functioning on the first dimension. Your worldview and everything's going to be, it's just like, what was it, oil and water? Whatever it is.
Oil and water.
Well, whatever it is, they don't go together.
So Ray, I want to ask you about something that's circulating again. I want your opinions because I feel you're an elder to a lot of our listeners and to myself. An elder not because of your age in the body, but an elder because of your experience on the planet. This situation that's been described by a speaker by the name of Yalila Espinosa. She's a speaker who talks about ayahuasca and eros, the research that's emerging now between the sexual relationships of shamans and their clients, or the sexuality and the orgasms that are coming up centered around people that drink ayahuasca, that may go down to the Amazon and have these retreats in which they may be doing a dieta where it's very rigid plant medicine for weeks, months, even years at a time, and they experience orgasm, or they experience a leaking of power that goes to the shamanic practitioner, the ayahuasquero, as it were. Maybe you could teach us a little bit about what your experience is with that, because, I don't know, in my personal opinion,